Today on the AM show, I interview David Chen. He explains to us why you never need permission to be great in the workplace and why hiring for talent can be a mistake. This is the AM show with arts music lawyer, where ambition and motivation meet persistence and drive, where your wildest dreams come true and even the greatest possibilities become realities. Listen to people just like you who stay authentic to who they are and master the art of their craft. Are you sharing the art of you? The art of you is music to my ears. Stay focused, stay on track. Create a new lifestyle with ambition and motivation. The AM Show. Hi, David. I'm Marcella, and I want to thank you so much for being on the AM Show today. I want everybody to know a little bit more about who you are. So let's start. Please explain who you are.
Appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me on the show. I'm really excited for this opportunity. By trade, right now I'm the current CFO of a company called Sparklecoin, where we focus on cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies and putting them into mainstream business. That's my background. Before that, I was in a venture capital private equity firm called BLCP. I was one of 4 partners there. We're in Scottsdale. We did a lot of off-market real estate type deals, an NBA team, for example, some really great off-market deals. And then previously, my basis was I was one of the youngest managing partners in the world for Deloitte. I ran their Chinese and Korean division for the Americas, for Mexico and all Latin America. And that's been really interesting. I had clients like Foxconn and Hyundai and Lenovo, and really worked on that. On the side, which is anytime in between, I'm an entrepreneur. So we do real estate, we do medical deals, restaurants, really construction, anything that really can kind of bring in business, and it's a grasp and understand that we have. And I do a combination of that with the different partners that I have.
So, I know that a lot of people, a lot of listeners might have heard of the name Deloitte. Give us a background. What is a day in the life of working at a place like that?
It's a great foundation, a great block. I mean, anyone that's in accounting and financing will tell you that's the big 4. Like that's the dream job that you're going to get when you graduate college or you're going into entering it. And I came in at 25 working there, and it was, it's a great story. I mean, it gives you great background for accounting and financing. We did $46 billion the year I left. A year at 200, we were in 180 countries with 290,000 employees. And I was one of 300 partners in Mexico, of all places, developing the Chinese business and the Korean business, because there was a lot of Chinese and Korean companies going into Mexico and doing the maquiladoras, and there was a heavy Chinese investment coming into the US working on that. And it was a great basis of what I needed really to kind of, on a corporate level, to kind of really put myself in a position where it made sense on the corporate level. And that's really what Deloitte was. It was a lot of traveling, a lot of meeting presidents and governors and big CEOs, and seeing every aspect and every angle of business, from a tax perspective to an IP perspective to an M&A perspective, and really seeing the big picture, the global picture of these companies and the strategies that we're trying to do behind it. And that was kind of like a day in life of what I was doing there. I probably traveled 60% a year to 70% a year. But it was an amazing experience.
So how does someone end up with a job like that? I mean, did you always know this is what you wanted to do?
No, it's actually a real funny story. I'm actually a college dropout, of all people. I actually didn't even graduate college, which has been real interesting. So a lot of people were really shocked when I got into Deloitte. I can tell you from my experiences and my background of who I am, where I came from. We came from very humble beginnings. My family, we basically lived out of a garbage can. We couldn't even be on welfare. I mean, the poorest city that you can imagine and the poorest apartment complex that was there, we took the beds out of there and slept on them. I didn't even know what a box spring was until I was 15. I mean, we're really the American dream when it comes to working and saving and which I'm working on our own. And those very humble beginnings really established myself to really work hard, not just in corporate life, but also as an entrepreneur, because you just never know what's going to happen, And when I did that initial part of the business, and really trying to get into Deloitte, I knew what I wanted to do, and I didn't know what was going to make me different from everyone else. But I was always told to find your niche. And my niche is I speak 5 languages. I speak 5 languages fluently. So someone that needed to do a deal in Chinese and Spanish instead of finding a translator who didn't understand business side of it, they didn't need that person. They had me. Someone that wanted to do English to Chinese, Spanish to English, they could use me. And so what ended up happening was, by a stroke of luck and a little bit of fate, I was running my family's restaurant, and there was a great guy named Fausto Gallardo, and he wanted to start a Chinese division because we had a very, very strong Japanese division in Deloitte, Mexico. In fact, one of the founding partners was Japanese, and they were taking the opportunity of all maquilas in the 70s that were going into Mexico. And what ended up happening was he saw the aspect of Chinese. He knew a guy that could speak the languages, and he gave me a shot. And so what really made it different was I had my niche, which made me different from everyone else. And out of everyone that was in that company until I left, there were only 5 people that could speak those languages, and 4 of them worked for me.
Wow. Wow, that's an amazing story, honestly. Every time I hear people say that they come from that type of background, I say, if you could do anything you set your mind to, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest thing in life is admitting that there's these type of issues in life, and you know, you think that you're the only person who's going through it, and you don't sit there and really realize it's just not you, that we're all going through the same issues in business. I don't care if you're Mark Zuckerberg or a guy down the street. I mean, we're all going through the same issues, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of insecurity and unsureness. And the problem with business in this world is you go out there and try to talk to people, and you feel like you're telling them too much, and they're going to take advantage of you on the edge. And then you might be playing out all your cards, and they know that you don't have the expertise that you're trying to have. And I think when you do that type of business, you're going to go from there. You know, these humble beginnings really, really help shaping who you are, and they really help influence who you want to be.
So what advice would you have for entrepreneurs who are listening that maybe feel stuck? You know, maybe they don't speak 5 languages, maybe they don't have money, maybe they don't have friends that can give them their next big break.
Well, I mean, the first thing is I always preach ego. And what do I mean by ego? You know, ego is the basis of death for anything in business and in life. You know, I remember a story when I was sitting with a really good friend of mine, and, you know, he's in his mid-20s, and he has a Lamborghini Gallardo, and he's sitting there talking to me, and he says to me, he says, you know, I want to get a Huracan. And I'm like, well, why do you want a Huracan? And he's just like, because it's a car I really, really wanted. And I looked at him, I said, you know, when you were graduating high school, or even 10 years ago, did you ever think you were going to get a Lamborghini at such a young age? He goes, no. I goes, why do you need another one? And his answer was, well, because the other guys have it. And I said, yeah, but every time you get a car like that, someone's going to have an Aventador. And I have friends who have Bugattis, and I have friends that own helicopters, and I have friends that have 1 but 2 private jets. And we make a lot of these decisions based on our egos, right? I want more. I want to spend more. I want more money. And many, many times we tend to forget why we started doing it in the first place. And that to me is a big lesson on who we're forgetting as who we are as core human beings and who we are as business people. It doesn't mean that you have to lay down and not be a shark. It just means that you have to be aware of why you're hunting. Doing too much of one thing, doing too much at one time, based on your ego and your shame is the biggest loss. So for any entrepreneurs out there, why are you doing this? Why are you expanding? Why are you trying to get this? Why are you in such, you know, a rush to get it done? Which is the second thing I preach, which is patience. We're in a world where we look at our Instagram every 15 minutes to see how many likes we have, and we have Facebook to see who made the comment, and, you know, we're on our LinkedIn to see how many people have viewed our profiles, and we're in a we need it now thing. And what they don't realize is this is a highlight reel. This is all a highlight reel. It really is a highlight reel, right? I mean, you know, you see Gary Vee put up his inspirational video that day, but you don't know Gary's traveling 35 hours and missing his family halfway around the world. You know, you see guys like Mark Zuckerberg who's sitting there and, you know, he's made $1 billion, but you don't know all the personal sacrifices and delicious that he's lost, that he's had it. And patience is not the same thing as not having a plan. It's just knowing that you're following the plan, and it might not be done instantaneously, but it does take time to get it done. And people often forget that because we get our Instagram lives like this. But what we don't do is it's business. It's growing. It's anything else that we've done in our lives, whether it's us working out and trying to gain muscularity, or us trying to build our bank accounts. It wasn't done overnight. It takes patience. And that's the second thing is patience, and that's what I would tell someone who's an entrepreneur. Third is your niche. Most of these big companies that have lost what they've done and where they're at is because they haven't remembered that this is a service industry now. Amazon wins because it's service, because it's straight to your door and I don't have to go get it. That's why they win. But we're in the service business, and it doesn't mean that you have to do everything that doesn't make sense, or you don't have to. There's always a customer is always trying to do what you don't want them to do. What it means is you have to be service oriented to your demographics and the people that you want. Without that special touch, people forget that. People forget the bedside manner is probably the most significant thing. If you're a doctor, to an attorney as well, to a banker, they just forget that we need the service because we're human beings. We just forget. And I think that plays in, again, the patience and ego part. But for any struggling entrepreneur, I would say those are three key things on why you're doing it, planning it properly, and of course, understanding why you're doing it is going to make a big difference.
That's good advice. Honestly, it is. I think that I really agree with the patience part. I think that even as an attorney, you want your attorney you want your law firm to appear first. You want to be the name everybody remembers when they think of trademarks. And yeah, it's definitely not something that happens overnight. So I agree that patience is a virtue.
It is. It really is.
So how long would you say that an entrepreneur should wait, give or take? For example, how long did it take you to attain the level of success that maybe others only are dreaming about right now?
Success is all relative, right? I failed way more than I've ever succeeded, and that's the reality of it. And I often tell people that there's no time of waiting, but it is planning and understanding. People have called me and said, I need a mentor and I need to understand business and what should I do? And I said, do what I did. What's that? And I said, Google it. Google how to do a business plan. Google how to do finance. Because the reality is it's in the palm of your hands. It's right here. And people don't tend to do that. They don't sit there and they're waiting for the help me, my hands are out there scenario instead of empowering themselves and doing it. If I want to learn how to do something, every single person does this. They might want to learn how to cook. They go online, they go on YouTube and they figure it out. They might want to learn how to change brakes. They go online and YouTube and figure it out. Why aren't you doing the same in business? Why aren't you learning marketing strategies? Why aren't you learning financial strategies? Why aren't you learning the best way to do it? There is ways to learn it, but you have to get off and stop giving yourself excuses and going from there. And that's, to me, is the best way. And once you do that and you've actually planned it out without an ego and you're patient to hit your goals and know that, you might not necessarily hit your goals right away. It might take time. That to me is true success because you're free. You're free here. There'll be a time when they'll make it or they won't make it. And they'll be sitting by themselves trying to figure out why it didn't work out or why it didn't work out. And the only reason they're figuring that out is because of their ego. It's like you said, you're blessed to have a law firm as opposed to say, maybe being a top one like you want it to be, or it is a top one. But the bare minimum is you have the opportunity to get that. And I think a lot of people struggle with that and go from there. But if they plan it and they review and they actually put in the initiative and the effort, like to do with their hobbies, hey, I'll tell you what, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. So speaking of mentorship and advice and, looking for words of wisdom, whether it's on Google or through a mentor, I see on your Instagram and social media profile that you've been in touch with a lot of people that, I'm sure had some good words to impart. So who has been your favorite person to have met, or what words of wisdom did they share with you that have still stuck with you?
The best piece of advice I ever got, and I want to go back to my Deloitte story because I think this will really empower a lot of people. Mm-hmm. When I went in Deloitte, I had no idea what accounting companies did. I knew they did taxes and basic accounting. I didn't really understand what an audit was. I didn't understand what joint ventures were and M&A and consulting. And I came in there and I was asked to work in consulting and sell ERS and Oracle. Well, I'm not a computer engineer by any means. I don't understand what the heck that was. And so I begged and I begged for training with the false assumption that I came into there and I should have Googled it, and I didn't do it. And in 7 months, I had gotten fired. So 2 months I'm moping around, blaming everybody, blaming the wind, blaming the trees, blaming everybody but myself, and playing victim. And that was my ego. And when I realized it was because I didn't produce an income for them, I didn't produce what they were expecting, and I was waiting for it, the me too, right, the patience issue, I was losing the game. And so what I ended up doing was I went back to the CEO and I begged him for my job back, and I took a 60% pay cut. That's called self-investing. You invest in yourself, what you're doing. And I said something very simple to him. I said, look, it's $2,000 a month. I said, if I close one deal, you made it back. Give me 3 months. I don't make it work, then let me go. If I make it work, it's great. Your worst case scenario, you're losing 6. Your best case scenario, you'll make money.
Right.
He looked at me and said, all right, I'll give you a shot. You know what I did the very next day? I went on Google and I Googled everything that we did. Every possibility. I researched about China, about Mexico, about business, about economics. I spent days and nights and I was obsessed over it, and I kept learning it. And the second year came around, I realized, hey, there's an opportunity in Tijuana because there's a lot of Chinese companies there, so I went to Tijuana. During that time, I had a gentleman who came to me and he said, any company that you work for, you don't need permission to do something great. Doesn't matter if you're the entry-level job person, an intern, or the vice president. You put it together and make sense, and you can make it great, and you can give your niche. That's what's going to make you different. By year 4, it became a national project. In 7 years, I became partner. I was one of the youngest partners, one of the quickest partners in the world, which typically takes 20, 25 years for someone to do. And that was a difference. I really realized that you had to have that edge. I think it was going to make you different than everybody else. And that's what I tell everybody that I talk to is you have to have that difference. And, you know, the difference could be your personal service. You know, it could be just you talking to clients, you know, when you as a person, you know, a lot of times I would keep my clients is I would do the extra things. If they just came in from Asia and they're trying to find a place to live, I would tell them where to live. And if they needed a car, I would negotiate the car for them. And if they needed what school it was, I'd tell them which school. I'd write down which grocery store to go to because they wanted ethnic food. That's going the extra mile. That's a service. And to this day, I still talk to these. Some of them are my closest friends. It doesn't matter if I'm in Deloitte anymore. They're still doing business with me. That's what I meant by service. And that's the difference, I think, between working and succeeding. And not everyone has to buy into it. Not everyone's going to, you know, agree on your vision. Not your parents aren't going to agree on your vision. You know, your friends aren't going to agree on your vision. You know, the people that work for you aren't going to agree on your vision. And that's okay. You just have to find the people that do and that you can be open and honest with and excel and plan that out and sit there and mope around and say, why me, why me, why me?
Wow, yeah. Actually, that reminds me of a few things that I wanted to ask too. You know, do you have any advice for hiring people? So, you know, in your case, you were working up to become partner, maybe on purpose, but maybe unknowingly too, by providing, you know, top level service. But, you know, what about team members that maybe, like you mentioned, not everybody's going to share the owner or someone like yours philosophy. So what advice do you have for somebody who's trying to build a team around them who will, you know, help cushion you and share your philosophy when you're not around to provide that service that, you know, you would provide?
I always, when I had a lot of my own businesses, and my biggest mistake is I always hired for talent. I always hired the best at what they were trying to do. I always hired the best at each of its position and level. And I tried to put together the dream team. And what I should have done is I should have hired for character. I can't teach character, but I can teach someone to become talented in what they're trying to do. And I think oftentimes we look for the best. We realize that the best isn't necessarily the best that's suited for you and what you're trying to do, but someone who has character, who's going to put in the hours and do what you want, those are the right people. And for me, hiring character is more important now than it is hiring talent. You know, and I actually probably have less employees than I've ever had. And a lot of these guys that I have now are now business partners of mine. I do give stocks and work with them directly because they want to have a piece of it. But the reality is it's all about character and the willingness to do that type of job that they want to do. And that's what I would honestly suggest is look at character more than looking at talent, because that really will make a difference between, in my opinion, making it work and then not working at all.
So what type of questions would be good ones to ask to judge character when you don't really know the person or know their background?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with, I mean, why are you doing this? What are your aspirations and goals? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why are you working to obtain this? Who are you doing this for? That to me is a big difference, right? Someone that's telling me I'm doing this because I don't have a choice because I'm a sick family member and I have to get it done. That to me is a character talent, right? That's talent, that's character. And it's utmost sense word because they're doing it for someone else. Those are the type of questions that I ask and I go from there. A lot of it is, going through and I always tell people that, right now, your resume is online. So everything you guys are posting up online, people review and they look at it. And going through that and seeing what that is and seeing how they really are also determines character. And that's a big difference too, right? If someone's out there spouting out every negative possible thing and talking about their ex-bosses and they're talking about how they hate their relationship, those are negative people that you don't want in your life, much less part of your team, because they will rot the whole barrel. But you have someone who's being positive and trying to do the influences and they're spending time with the right people and they know how to sacrifice and go from there. Those are the people, in my opinion, that you want to work with because they're goal-oriented and their mindset's different and the character is different. And that to me is how I hire a character.
What if they're not on social media at all? What does that say?
That tells, well, I mean, this is opinionated. So it tells me that, either a nonconformist, they don't want to go on the trend, and, or B, they have something to hide. I mean, really, it's one of those two, right? But the reality is, I think when you talk to people and you interview them, you look them in the eye and kind of go from there, you might be able to kind of tell a difference at that point in time. A lot of times it's your gut. But again, it has to come down to the character of the person. I mean, and to me, character is a simple thing. Like I have an intern right now. And the first lesson I taught him was, we went to Starbucks and asked if he wanted anything to drink. He goes, no. And so when I got my coffee, I came back out, I gave him water. He looked at me, he goes, oh, I didn't want anything. I said, well, it's a 2-hour trip and you might be thirsty, so here's the water. And I said, that's your first lesson. I said, be considerate of the people. That's character, right? That's me being considerate of you and having sort of character. So little things like that when you're working with them, hiring them in interview processes that you could probably engage and catch up on, that you'll see how they are and going from there. That to me makes a really, really big difference.
The moral of the story, order your Frappuccino when David offers it.
Exactly, or take the water.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. What I read on your profile that you do mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, and things like that. So what does that mean for somebody who knows nothing about that world, but who is maybe just starting off in business?
Well, ultimately, when you start a business, right, your goal is always to make money, right? Or to change the world. It's always those two things. And many, many times, there's always these big, giant corporations who strategize with you and they want to buy your company. And it could be several reasons. One, it could be because you're in the right city and they need that demographic market. Two, it could be because they need to utilize your knowledge and the IP and experience that you have. Three, it could be because you have profitability, the numbers that they can continue to merge into their company and take your organization's operational skills and build upon their own. Those are the different possibilities. And that's what a merger is when you do two big companies together, two companies together in general, and they work together as one and they become one company. And that's a lot of the stories right there, right? Like Deloitte had merged with Arthur Andersen as a merger, for example. That's an example. Joint ventures is two companies working together as a partnership, but not necessarily losing the whole business themselves, but on that individual partnership, that individual project, and working together as a team to achieve the goal of succeeding. And I encourage all entrepreneurs to look into this because everyone's in the I want 100% my mentality and partners stink. Partners stink because there's no communication. Partners stink because sometimes they're just not good partners. But really, anyone that's trying to do any business, that's trying to get a higher value of that business to sell it off, they have to create that value and that monetary value that's there. And there's different ways to do it nowadays, right? But that's really what people have to do is they have to understand how to make it worth more. And a lot of people will come in and they'll buy, like a hamburger company, a local one that has 15 stores because it has 15 stores throughout El Paso, as an example. And that would help them with their merger process. So there's different ways of doing it, but that really is what an M&A is, which is called merger acquisition, and then JV, which is joint venture is.
So as an investor, then what advice do you have for a small business that has quite a ways to go, but that is maybe thinking long term and wants to be acquired eventually, and that's their exit plan. Or, you know, as an investor, what advice would you give to those small businesses or budding businesses?
If you get too emotionally involved in it, you should sell it. If it's too difficult for you to sell, if it's too difficult for you to take a vacation, if it's too difficult to do it, then there's already an issue there. That's been the hardest lesson I've had to learn as a business person, my biggest mistakes. And I will tell you that when you're too emotionally involved in it, that's the time where you have to let it go and go from there. Number two, you can start over. You know, you might say, I only know how to do Chinese restaurants, for example. It doesn't mean you can't do a restaurant yourself because you're still doing it. You know, but you have to have the belief and faith that you have. Three, anyone that wants it, you know, looking for investment, that typically try to look for investors that try to grow their businesses, they have to have a strategy that makes sense. And it has to make sense to where they're trying to do that. And the way they can find that out is going to this magical thing called Google again and putting in extra strategies and plans. And I'm saying this jokingly, but I really do say that because there really shouldn't be an excuse in learning and understanding what investors are looking for and try to model that into that specific industry. And that takes no extra money, and it doesn't take school, it doesn't take anything else. It just takes you taking the time to want to learn it and do it yourself. I think that's another, you know, way of doing it. And typically, you know, I'm at the point in my life where I'll do a business, and if it's something that I really am enjoying and doing, then at that point in time, you know, if I have an offer, I do sell, and I go from there. And so that really is the knowledge I've realized over and over again, that you can do the same thing over and over and over again. As long as you believe that you can do it, you'll be fine.
Okay. All right, so now we're coming down to our last couple of minutes. So I want you to share, you know, your biggest piece of advice or something that you really want the audience to know about you specifically, something that your present self would have said to your past self.
It's going to be okay. It's all temporary. Biggest heartbreak you ever had and it was all over, you still got over it and you're here today. You have survived 100% of your worst days because you're still here today. You survived death, you survived failure, you survived disappointment, you survived heartbreak. It's going to be okay, and you're still here, and you still have an opportunity to continue to do it. The world isn't going to end. You can start over. You can keep doing it. Don't give up on yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect anyone else to believe in you? Dust it off, let it go. It's all temporary. I have a very, very general rule I tell all my business partners, my friends. If it doesn't matter in 5 years, who cares? Let it go. You know, some of the biggest mistakes I've ever made is not letting it go and not realizing that it was temporary and not realizing it wasn't important enough in the big scheme of things. And that's the big thing. And I think that as you're going through whatever struggle you're going through, personal, business, even, you know, whatever it is, you survive all your worst days. It's all temporary. Be happy that you're still here. Be positive. And I always tell people, positivity isn't one of those foo-foo things that I say to people. And it's like, oh, I'm going to be positive. Everything's going to be great. And I'm going to make all this money. No. What I mean is you believe in yourself that you can do it and you put in the work to learn it. That, you know, you don't put on negative things. If there's something that you watch on TV that's negative, turn it off and watch something that's positive that's going to make you laugh and make you happy. Those surroundings, those environments make a difference between you wanting to succeed and living that every single day than being negative. If there's someone that you see on Facebook who's constantly negative, unfollow them. You don't have to unfriend them, unfollow them. I do it all the time. I just don't want to see that stuff. And I want to believe that I'm going to do something better in my life and I have a purpose in my life and I'm going to succeed. And that's what I tell people all the time is be positive. You survive. You're okay. Everyone's gone through it. This isn't the worst thing that could happen to you. This isn't the last thing that's ever going to happen to you. It does happen to you. So if you survive and you go through there, then you should go through anything. But never, ever, ever, no matter what anyone tells you, give up. Never give up.
Great piece of advice. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. This is one question you weren't expecting. What's your favorite song? And can you sing a small tune from that song?
My favorite song?
Yeah, because this is arts music lawyer. So music, I know, affects everybody, touches everybody, strikes a chord. So let's hear it.
My favorite song is, it's probably Happy from Pharrell Williams. As silly as that sounds.
Can you sing a little bit for us?
I'm happy, That's all it is, you know. And I love
Love
it.
it.
It's good. Like even my playlist, like I put on happy music. Like that's just what I try to do. So it really makes a difference of positivity.
Good. I agree. And I love that song too, actually. So, okay, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, and tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, my name is David Chin. You can find me on Instagram at David Chin Panda. You can email me if you have any questions, David Chin, ELP for El Paso at gmail.com. More than happy to chit chat with anybody that needs the help and go from there.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and stay tuned to our next episode of the AM Show. Goodbye.
Thank you.